Well, welcome to another Auckland Business Chamber Business Insights webinar. I'm obviously Simon Bridges, CEO of the Chamber, and I'm delighted today to have with me Melissa Frerk, who is Smarty Activator, and I'm hoping she'll tell us what that exactly means at Skillpod. And, Skillpod is all about, and Melissa is all about unlocking teams' potentials for business success. And that's obviously something that's relevant to all of us in our businesses, whether we're employees working for a boss, whether we're the boss, or whether we're out there, by ourselves, trying to get the best of those around us. So, Melissa's going to talk to us today about creating dream teams through shared expectations. We're really looking forward to hearing from you, Melissa, and then I'm going to grill you with really difficult questions after that. So yeah, good to have you, and thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you so much, Simon, for that wonderful welcome and having me and the Skillpod team here today to run through the presentation, Creating the Dream Team. It's obviously something I'm super passionate about as a Smarty Activator. And I guess Smarty Activator is helping activate that true potential within the team and the business. So shall we jump into it, Simon?
Amazing. Looking forward to it already.
Love the excitement. Wonderful. So let's start to sort of run through and take you through, and I'll ask you a few questions as we go, Simon, if you don't mind talking through the presentation. So as we said, we're going to go through creating the dream team through shared expectations. So really about having those shared expectations to transform team dynamics and make the business more successful. So let's, before we sort of run through that and talk through what we're going to cover today, I just want to do a bit of a whakatauki, and I want to acknowledge that I'm still learning te reo and working through it, but I'll read through this and then we'll kick in from there. Nā rau, nā ku, roro, kia ora e te iwi. So basically, it's all about knowledge, right? So when you're educating your team and having more knowledge within the team. So what are we going to cover today with you, Simon, and those that are listening in? So we're going to talk about the value of having shared expectations in the business context. So it really is about creating that solid foundation to having a successful team. We're going to talk about your team's expectations. So obviously, as a business owner, you will have your vision and your values in that direction, but also you need to merge that, and I'll talk about that further, understanding your team and what motivates them as individuals and merging those together for success. And then we're going to give you a free tool and tools and techniques, and we're going to give you a free tool you can download for your own business to use to create shared expectations for you and your team and some success. So first, we're going to talk around shared expectations in the workplace. So like anything, I'm sure, Simon, you don't just jump in the car and not know where you're going to go, right? So you have a direction of which way you're going to go. So for a business, you want some direction. So that's where your strategy, your vision, your values, you know where it's going. Otherwise, what place are you going to go and how are you going to tell your team where you're going to go? Then it's important to have, agreed guidelines. Be really clear with your communication. Focus on what those goals are. We all do a lot better when we have a goal to aim for and look where we're going. And then the other one is really having clarity, having consistency and cooperation. So, it's kind of that simple thing. What gets measured gets done, and having that really good work culture. Because, if the culture is good, everything, sort of will fold around that. If staff are happier, they're more likely to perform around there for you. So let's talk around understanding your employee needs first. So before you get shared expectations, you need to understand that individual person in your team. What's their expectations? What's their motivators? So, sharing those business related and people related is the first step for those team dynamics. So you need to align, obviously, the organization goals and the employee expectations and link it together for the strong team. So obviously each team member is going to have its own motivators and aspirations. So we need to tailor our leadership approach to them and understand that to get the best out of them and make a more productive and collective team. So we've got our organisational goals, our employee expectations, and then looking at how we can bring them together to have that clear communication. So I guess, Simon, have you seen cases where having these clear understanding employee expectation and organisational goals has worked well or not so well in your experience?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think there's a couple of things from my perspective. Firstly, for me, as I suppose a business leader and you know a boss in a number of contexts. You know, I can be a bit self-contained. It's all in my head. I know where we're going, so that's all. That's good.
Mm,
But it's gone a lot better where I'm obviously regularly sharing my sort of a view about where things are going, and so that
mm,
they, you know, those I'm working with understand that. But then secondly, I think
mm,
and that's been true in, you know, every business or organization I've been in. But then I think, you know, what's even better is that that's one thing, is you top down telling them what your
mm,
colleagues what you want. But then, of course, what the point you make is it's even better when you're getting from them what they reasonably expect as well. So it's a two-way thing. And then, as you say, marrying those together. So
mm,
yeah, definitely examples of that around, you know, campaigns that I've run or
mm,
we've run at the chamber.
mm.
Uh,
Thank you, Simon. Oh,
Others,
sorry.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you for those wonderful insights because you've got so much experience there. And I think, that's such a good point about having it in your own head. And a lot of SMEs that I've worked with, it's like, well, I know that. And it's like, well,
yeah,
where's it written down? Have you shared that goal? Because sometimes if you've got a goal and you haven't shared it, you can be, oh, well, I'll just let myself off. There's that accountability piece, right? Mm. So I think, getting it out of your head, writing it down, sharing it with your team is so important, and the way you share it, and then obviously that bringing them on the bus or in the car, whatever analogy you'd like to use, but it's so important to have that open communication and get them involved. So thank you for that. And I think before I move on, I've got a quote from Jim Goodnight that I really like. Treat employees like they'll make a difference, and they will. So I'm always about that mindset of thinking everyone's your best employee, because it will change the way you behave and react with those employees.
mm,
Now let's look at bridging the gap. So I guess I couldn't have a better co-presenter than you, Simon. With a surname like Bridges, who's better to help us about building strong connections? So let's hope by the end of the presentation, not only you are great at building bridges, but also the rest of us that have tuned in. So let's talk about bridging the gap around communication. So as it's on here, obviously we've talked about effective communication is so important within your business growth, particularly in a SME or a small business or a medium business where agility and quick decision are so critical for them. So things like online tools to help you, platforms. Obviously, we've got lots of learning. You can do micro learning really quickly, but obviously continuous learning for someone that's a business owner helps them to be competitive, to be adaptive for the ever-changing business landscape that we know that's going on. So things that are really important to their quick and agile decision making and things like that is being having real clarity. So clarity obviously for their direction, but also having that clarity in the message. So making sure your team understands those goals and objectives, whether they're in your head, hopefully written down, and there's no vagueness about them. Everyone's very clear on what those expectations are, particularly where resources, and we all know that, can be quite limited. And every person in the teams, every person's contribution is really pivotal. So if you consider about it, if you're explaining stuff using clear language, now some industries, we obviously have industry specific technical terms, but where you can avoid the jargon and things that people could misunderstand, the better. Understanding your audience. So who are you talking to? Making sure that are you talking to, whether it's a new staff member, experienced staff member? Are you talking with an investor? You know, you may need to change it up with your audience and who you're really talking to. So really understanding that when you're talking to each team member, what are those individual motivators we talked about, to linking it back to the shared expectations and linking it to the company expectations for them. So you're forever linking it back in. And that's where I love having values in a business, so you can link that in with behaviors, etc. Obviously, alignment. So you want to make sure that your communication all aligns with those business goals. And that's, again, like I said, with the values, you can link it back. You can link it back to the where you're going in your direction in those goals. And obviously that helps with the productivity, because we know we're all on that shared direction and that shared path. So common goals, common objectives obviously help also bring a team together. And we can do that by having regular team updates and talking with your team about that with open communication. The other thing with communication, and is really the foundation of effective communication, is trust. So in a small team or in a business, you want to maintain that trust to have the morale and have the loyalty within your team. You want to make sure your team members feel valued and part of it, right? And you want to share successes, but also the challenges. And when you share them, I'm all about making sure, you know, as a leader, you share how that journey went, because that's where the learnings are. Whether you didn't quite get there or you did, that's where the learning is for everyone else when you share it. So it's not just the result. You want the team to be involved in the reality of what's going on with the business to help you. And that doesn't just prepare, you know, yourself and the team, but it helps them to face challenges, but it also obviously involves them in helping finding solutions. Because I always say diversity of thought, diversity of skill. You know, if you combine all your team ideas, you're more likely to get a better solution together. So I guess, you know, effective communication isn't just about speaking well, but it's about listening and really understanding. And, you know, that active listening is so cool, so crucial, sorry. So obviously developing communication is part of what we call human skills. So you might go, what's human skills? Well, human skills are what we call an interpersonal skill. They allow you to interact effectively with others. So it's around building relationships, communicating, collaborating. It could be like empathy, resilience, or anything else like that. So, you know, these all help with building shared expectations when you have these skills, because obviously if you have empathy, you've got resilience in business, connects it all back together. So let's now talk at the next thing around building shared expectations within your team. So walking the talk, right? So we want to look at, we've obviously got the business and the value for the business and our value for the individuals, and then bringing it together in the middle. So having shared expectations relating to our interpersonal skills and our human skills provides value for the business and our team members. So having shared expectations, so not just understanding those business goals and how we collaborate and behave as humans, how we also need to put time into our behaviors, so our human skills, because that really helps us with that success. So the values of human skills training is obviously intertwined in the business and into the individuals, with mutual benefits for the team of workplace success, collaboration, and overall well-being. So businesses that invest in developing the employees' human skills contribute to the individual growth, the success of their business, obviously, and a positive culture. By having a shared understanding of human skills, you are empowering individuals to foster a more cohesive and productive work environment. So that will enhance the business's ability to adapt to change and innovate. So values that you get for the business, you'll get team alignment, so they know where they're going. They'll be more adaptable, they'll be more resilient. And we talked about, you know, in business, there's such a constant change. They'll be better with your customers and dealing with customer relationships. They'll be better with conflict. They'll be more innovative. They'll be open to being more creative, because you've created that culture where they can give ideas and solutions, and they'll be more productive. The value for individuals, stress management. looking at career and feeling like they can be developed within the organization. They'll have increased job satisfaction, effective communication, better networking, and personal growth. Now, all of these will lead to your team being more effective, because with having better communication, you'll have less errors, less problems. There won't be things that maybe people have jumped on and misunderstood. The team will be more effective because the conflict, obviously resolution, you'll have less conflict. They'll be dealing with your customers better, and they're more adaptive to change within that. Now let's look at the role of leadership in fostering a culture of shared expectations. So when a good leader is all of these things that are up on this slide. So as a good leader, you need to be able to be a good communicator. And part of good communication is also being really good at active listening. So a lot of the time, sometimes we're really great at what we do when we're in business. And sometimes we are hearing our staff members, but we're already thinking how we can solve the problem, rather than really active listening, which we can hear and learn a lot more from each other. We need to have that trust. We need to have, integrity. We need to be that role model for our team. If you're going to set an expectation, it's no point if you set an expectation and you go that behave a different way, because the team will be like, but you're off doing that. So if you say, oh, we all have to reverse car park your cars, and you don't reverse your car in the car park, it's like, well, Melissa's not doing that, so why is there that expectation? So I think being clear around that, having regular check-ins with your team. Do you do personal development? Do you do one-on-ones? Are you talking to them? Are you being honest in your communication? Keeping those goals clear, sharing what's going on in your head. So I think, as a good leader, showing a little bit of vulnerability at times, if there's something not quite going well, how do we fix that together? Show alignment with those expectations and keeping it regular around that with your team. Now, to give you an example, I thought I'd talk about us at Skillpod. So about 9 months ago, we had a planning day, and we were looking around our shared expectations for ourselves as a team. So we had a bit of a planning day. We all sort of met in the middle because we spread out across the country. And we had some time to connect as a team face to face, because a lot of the time we're doing it virtually, which was really great. And we co-designed our values together as a team. This then set, our expectations together, but with setting the values, we all brought into that, but also then we took the values and went, how do these look? So it's good to have a value, but then what's the shared expectation of how that value plays out and for our behaviors and the way we do things? So I'm going to talk through just one of our values here at Skillpod. So one of the values is we are curious. So it's great having that value, but then as a team member, what's expected of me? So it's all about clarifying that as a behavior. So we've broken that down and said, okay, cool, curious, that's our value. But then if I'm interacting with Simon as a customer, what does that play out like? So we started going, okay, let's talk about this. So we talked around that's been continuously learning, growing ourselves as individual, being aware what's going on in the industry, seeking feedback, because that's how you grow and that's how you show you want to be the best version of yourself every day. Be innovative, thinking creatively, thinking new ideas, taking a bit of a risk, and a failure is okay, because that's how you grow as an individual if you get outside that comfort zone. Challenging the status quo, like I love it in the team. We sort of, if one of us is like, but what about this? What if? Because that's that diversity of thought and diversity of skill. And we're creating that safe culture. It's okay to ask those questions. And researching stuff. So there's a lot more. So it's all good. There's a value, but then you're giving those behaviors. So then it's setting it with the team. So at Skillpod, we've set what those behaviors are. And same in your business, have you got a value, but have you actually said how it looks as a behavior, so the team are clear on what the expectation is? Sorry, there we go. Sorry, pardon. So now this is our free template that we are giving you here from Skillpod that you can use the QR code and scan. And I'm going to run through this tool for you that you can use to build your dream team through shared expectations. So just a bit of a quote before I go through the tool. This is from Steve Jobs. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. So great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people. And I'm so big of that. It's like leadership is actually about getting it done through your team together, right? So building a dream team doesn't need to be hard. I know sometimes we can make things seem like they're hard, but having that positive and growth mindset, you can do it in these easy steps together. So let's talk through these, how you can do it. Now, you either have values at the moment or you don't. So you would sit down and either refresh what you've got, if you have got some now, or if you've got some ideas, set some values. And it's thinking about what's important to you in your business and think about, brainstorm. And sometimes it's like write all the ideas down and then narrow it down. Because when we set them at Skillpod, we had them all over a board and there was heaps on the board, and then we narrowed it down to what we thought was really good for us and the business. Then you want to look at agreeing on the team purpose, and you can get your team involved, get their ideas, again, diversity of skill, diversity of thought, and work through the company vision, the purpose, where you're going, how does that come in, and what you want to achieve together. Then once you've got the values, once you've got the purpose, then you can go, well, what are those expectations? How do they look like in behaviors? How do they look day to day when I'm doing my job? What does that look like in reality? How can I do that, And keeping those purpose and those values all in mind when you do that, and work through with the team. And it's all brainstorming, and, you can have it in a planning day like we did, or however you want to do it to work through each of those. But keeping it together. And when you do expectations, there's a couple of ways you can do it that individuals write them all on a post-it note, and that way you're not getting what's called groupthink. So you could get everyone to write it down, then put it, and then share it together, and that way you're getting each individual one, rather than someone going, oh, well, Simon said this or Melissa said this, and you might get a little bit swayed by that. But again, your team, you can work through that to doing that. But working through that, once you've then got the expectations, you can agree on it together, and then you agree on it as a team. You're getting people on your bus or on the car all together around those shared expectations and building your dream team for success. So you can download that. It's got all the steps in it when you download it. So you can work through that in your own time for your business, and helping you sort of integrate those within it for yourself. I'd love to sort of hear how you get on. If you have a go, you can drop a line on LinkedIn to Skillpod or to myself and let me know. Or if you've got any questions, I'd be happy to help you with that. So, integrating human skills and communication within your business is so important, and will help you succeed within that. Having those, regular one-on-ones, team building within your team. So let's look a little bit further at some of those other tools and techniques to help you embed shared expectations within your team. So as I said, what gets measured gets done. So here's some tools you can use. Consider that your teams are, everyone in your team are different. So different courses for different horses, so to speak. So once you know your team, you know their motivators, looking at some of these, because you may use some, you may use one or two, to help you around creating those shared expectations. So using these will help around your team communications. You could do some workshops with the team, and workshops and stuff. So you could workshop the shared expectations together. You could look at communication strategies. You can look at some leadership. You might do some stuff around conflict resolution, or what's going on in your business around that. Team building activities are so important with your team. Gives them an opportunity to get to know each other, and often, away from the office, you can do those escape rooms. You could do some sports, team sports days. What works with your team, but taking them away from the office and day to day can really help to do that. Regular feedback sessions are important. Often in employee engagement surveys, you find that staff members want to know feedback. They want to hear from you. They want to grow. They want to be part of the business. So having that, formal and informal coaching and being able to communicate that and making it safe to share those feedback, even getting feedback yourself on the business and what's going on, you need to create that culture for them. And that's where developing human skills and strong communication really helps with that within your team. Goal setting. Now, SMART goals, I won't go too much detail, but having goals is important, but making them SMART. So they need to be specific. They need to be measured. It needs to be achievable, but it still needs to be a stretch. It needs to be realistic, and it needs to be timely. So, having goals. So, the team have that shared expectation. You're setting goals, but they also allow you to have celebrations and milestones and little stages along the way to look at how you're going together with those shared expectations and as a team. And it really brings the team together when you can have that as well. And then looking at surveys. So you could have anonymous surveys to check on how things are going. You could have someone else run it just to do a check-in on what's actually happening within your team and your wider business together, and looking at that and how you can work through those tools and techniques. So each of these, when you know your individuals in your team, you can work through picking a couple of these or a few of these just to help you around that. So just to sort of sum it all up from what we've covered, you want to involve your team in the shared expectations. So we don't want it all in our heads. As Simon said, don't have it all in your head, share it out with the team, get them involved. The more you can bring them with you, the more likely you're to succeed together. You want to be clear. You want about expectations around the skills, the knowledge, and particularly the behaviors. Make it so the team aren't going, but what does that mean? How does that look like? How do I fit here? How do I make a difference? You want to be consistent. You want to reinforce expectations, because what gets measured gets done. And you need to role model that and develop your organization or your business culture. Because where the culture is good and your staff are motivated, your staff are engaged, they feel valued, I can tell your business will be more successful, more efficient, and more productive. And who doesn't want that within their business? So keeping those up within your team will help you to be more successful and create the dream team. So up here, I've got the planning template again on the QR code that you can download and use for free. And look, as I said, we'd love to hear how you get on, and any questions, you can link up with myself on LinkedIn or us at Skillpod, or both, and just let us know how you get on. Thanks for having me, Simon, and let's hear some of your questions.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks so much, Melissa. That's great. And yeah, a lot of good stuff there for business people to get those shared expectations and have a better team doing better stuff for clients and the like. Yeah, I think on the shared expectations, I mean, it's so basic, and we've kind of already said this, but I think it is about speaking and listening. As I say, can't keep it in your head. You've got to get it out there, but actually you've also got to listen and take the feedback and make sure those expectations are two ways and are understood and are reasonable and respected. So I think that's you agree with all of that?
Yes, yeah, totally. It's a two-way street, and communication is the sender receiver, and you've got to be actively listening, asking questions.
Yeah, I think the other one is I liked what you said. Make everyone, which isn't always easy, by the way, but make everyone your best employee. You try and do that. That's a great thing, isn't it? It means effectively you're expecting, you said this as well, expecting the best from them.
Yes.
I suppose that's how you do that. It's not always easy. Some employees may be easier than others, but have you got any thoughts on that?
Oh, look, it's not always easy in business, but I think it's a mindset. So, if you truly believe in your head, and I've put this challenge out there and I put it out there, if you think everyone's your best, you will change how your body language will change how you communicate. And it works with that, and you will see a difference just with that mindset.
Yeah, totally right. And I also you had one of your slides here, value individual, value for business, value for individual, value for business. suppose the thing about that is, as well as it's you've got to keep those in balance. You've got to have both. If you
Mhm.
just value for individuals, I mean, this is ridiculous, but everyone would take all the profits and you'd all be paid $1 million, and none of you would be doing any work, and
Mm,
the business would go down the gurgler. Likewise, if you're not fair about those things to your people, you won't have any good staff who are doing good things.
mm,
So you got to kind of keep the yin and yang of all of that
mm,
in balance. Value, curious, sort of great. I think on the values, I mean, ours is making it easier for you to do business.
mm,
And so that's a sort of that's what we're trying to, maybe it's a more of a mission statement, but that's what we try to do. And then I think hopefully what that manifests itself in is better service of our members, our stakeholders, and Auckland really. Um, what would we get out, do you think, if we downloaded your tools and sort of took that a bit further? Would we end up with more values and sort of more of a sense of how to do that? Or what do you think?
Um, well, I can't say until you do it, but you could flesh out what the behaviors are around making it easier to do business. Like, what does that look like for your staff members, right? Because it sounds easy as it is, but what's making it easy? So, is that giving them tools? Is it doing the webinars like this? Is it doing education? What is it or asking business, what makes it easier? And maybe, so it's actually, what does that mean? Or what does that mean to us? And then what does that look like in a behavior? So you
Yes.
may get more, or you might just flesh that out into what does that look like? And
Yeah.
how do I know I'm delivering that? So if Simon comes up to me and goes, what have you done today, Mel, to make it easier for businesses? I'll be like, oh, well, I've done this, this, and this. And you're like, okay. And you can align those behaviors to what that means.
Definitely. No, it's good. Well, and we have done some of the things you've said. We did a survey at the start of the year to get a sense of what members were thinking. And actually,
Mm,
it was gratifying in some ways. A lot of things there that they're saying, yeah, that's great, that's great, that's great. But then there were one or two where, yeah, and what about more of
mm,
this, and less of this, or and
mm,
that's very helpful. Hey, well,
mm.
Melissa, we really appreciate you having you along. It's been a great webinar. I'm sure people will get a lot out of it. Download the tool and maybe even give you a message or three on link. So we really appreciate.
Cool.
Thanks for coming along.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Simon and the team. Have a great day. Thank you.